Imagine standing in a crowded gallery where 100 photographs hang silently on white walls. Visitors drift from one frame to another, pausing for only a few seconds before moving on. Some photographs are admired for their beautiful colors, others for their perfect composition. A few spark conversations about the camera that was used or the skill of the photographer. Then something unexpected happens. At the far end of the room, one visitor simply stops. Minutes pass. Everyone else continues walking, but this person cannot leave a single photograph behind. Nothing in the image moves. There is no music, no narration, no explanation. Yet something inside that silent rectangle has reached a place words never could. Why? That question has fascinated photographers for generations because it asks something much deeper than how to make a beautiful photograph. It asks why certain images become part of our lives while others disappear from our memories almost as quickly as we see them. Surprisingly, the answer begins long before photography existed. Long before cameras, paintings, or even written language, survival depended on one simple ability: recognizing what mattered before it was too late. A frightened face, a sudden movement in the distance, or the sound of a child crying demanded attention immediately. There was no time for careful analysis. Emotion became the fastest language the human brain would ever learn, and thousands of years later it still speaks before logic has a chance to catch up. Scientists now understand that the emotional centers of the brain begin evaluating what we see before the conscious mind has finished identifying it. We like to think we first understand and then feel, but the opposite is often true. We feel first, and only afterwards do we explain those feelings to ourselves. Perhaps that is why the most memorable photographs rarely begin with technical perfection. They begin with human connection. Few photographers understood this more deeply than James Nachtwey. For decades he walked into places that most people were desperately trying to escape. Wars, famine, disease, and unimaginable suffering became the landscapes of his career. Yet when people speak about his photographs, they rarely mention shutter speed or lenses. They speak about the mother holding her child, the exhausted doctor, the terrified eyes of a refugee. Nachtwey never photographed tragedy simply to shock his audience. He photographed humanity surviving inside tragedy. That difference changed everything. His photographs did not ask people to admire them. They asked people to care. The remarkable thing is that emotion doesn't only exist in extraordinary moments. In fact, it often hides where very few photographers think to look. A father quietly waiting outside an operating theater. An elderly couple sitting together without saying a word. A child gripping a parent's finger while crossing a busy road. These moments rarely appear dramatic, yet they carry a truth that cannot be manufactured. The camera records what happened. Emotion explains why it mattered. Perhaps this is why authenticity has become so valuable. Cameras have an unusual effect on people. The moment they notice a lens, many begin performing a version of themselves they hope the world will like. Smiles become rehearsed. Postures become deliberate. Conversations become cautious. Documentary photographers learn that their greatest tool is not the camera at all. It is patience. They wait until people forget they are being observed. They wait until life quietly returns to being itself. Only then does the photograph begin to breathe. Sebastião Salgado once said that before photographing people, he wanted to understand them. That simple idea separates observation from empathy. One records appearances, the other seeks meaning. When photographers spend time listening instead of directing, watching instead of interrupting, something remarkable begins to happen. Expressions soften, guarded eyes relax. Genuine moments appear naturally, not because they were created by the photographer, but because they were trusted with them. Technology continues to improve at an astonishing pace. Cameras now recognize faces, track eyes, and calculate exposure faster than any human ever could. Artificial intelligence can remove distractions, replace skies, and transform colors with remarkable precision. Yet no machine can recognize the exact second when forgiveness replaces anger, when fear becomes relief, or when hope quietly returns to someone's face after months of despair. Those moments remain deeply human, and because they are deeply human, they remain the true subject of photography. The next time you lift your camera, resist the temptation to ask whether your settings are perfect. Instead, ask yourself a question that no camera can answer. What is this person feeling that they haven't yet said aloud? If you learn to recognize that moment, your photographs will begin changing. Not because your composition improved, but because your attention did. You will stop collecting beautiful images and start preserving meaningful ones. Perhaps that visitor standing alone in the gallery understood something the rest of us often forget. They weren't looking at paper, ink, or pixels. They were recognizing a piece of themselves reflected in the life of someone they had never met. The photograph became a bridge between two strangers connected by a single emotion. The camera recorded the light. The photographer recognized the moment. But emotion was always the part that made the photograph impossible to forget.